The devil said to me, "How much you love me, John?" He was in the car with me. I can feel the presence of him in my car. I said, "Of course I love you." He said, "Prove it." I said, "How do you want me to prove it?" He said, "There's a man on the 12th floor. Take him to your apartment, sacrifice him for me." I said, "I will do that. I'm going to show you that I love you." I went in the elevator, coming up, and he was behind the door to the rooftop. I went to grab him, to bring him in my apartment. I was half demon possessed. My eyes were red. He freaked out. He didn't know what hit him. I tried to bring him into my apartment. I tried to get the keys in my pocket. And for the first time in 25 years, I heard the voice of God. Audible, the voice of God. He said, "My son."
Welcome, everyone.
The ex-Satanist explains that during his years in darkness, fear was one of the most powerful weapons he used. Fear wasn't random. It was intentional. It was released to paralyze people, to control them, to stop them from moving forward. Fear, he says, opens doors that keep people frozen while life passes them by. When he left the occult and turned to Christ, the fear didn't disappear immediately. In fact, it intensified. Night after night, he was tormented by terror, convinced demons were coming for him. He struggled with sleeplessness, panic, and the constant sense of being hunted. For 30 days, he says, he thought he was losing his mind. Then something changed. He describes fear like a bully, loud, aggressive, always trying to assert power. A bully only keeps control as long as you believe it has authority. The moment you stand your ground, the moment you refuse to be pushed around, the dynamic shifts. Fear, he says, only has power when you give it permission. This man isn't sharing theory. He lived on both sides of spiritual warfare. He knows how fear is deployed, and he knows how it's defeated. The ex-Satanist goes on to explain something many people get wrong. Satan does not read minds. Demons do not hear thoughts. Only God does that. Scripture is clear. God alone knows a person's thoughts from afar. Angels and demons are created beings. They are not omniscient. They do not possess divine attributes. So why does it feel like the enemy knows exactly how to attack? Because he studies patterns, habits, behaviors, routines, emotional reactions. These are the real entry points. According to the ex-Satanist, demons observe what people consistently do. They notice when someone skips prayer, isolates themselves, returns to toxic relationships, or numbs themselves with distractions. Over time, patterns become predictable, and predictability creates vulnerability. It isn't mind reading, it's pattern recognition. Fear thrives where habits go unchecked. Bad thinking habits produce fearful outcomes. Repetitive behaviors create spiritual footholds. Scripture calls this giving place to the devil, not a mystical opening, but a practical one. Repeated choices, unchallenged routines, an unguarded thought life. The enemy doesn't need to hear your thoughts if your habits already reveal your direction. That's why breaking fear isn't just about rebuking demons, it's about changing patterns. When habits change, access is lost. When access is lost, fear loses its grip. The ex-Satanist emphasizes that demons can influence thoughts, pressure emotions, and suggest ideas, but they cannot read minds. They wait for doors to open. Unforgiveness, bitterness, fear, and destructive habits are the most common ones. Once those doors close, torment stops. Fear, he says, is like a plague. It stretches days into weeks, weeks into months. It traps people in mental boxes, convincing gifted, capable individuals that they cannot move forward. But fear is not permanent. It can be evicted. An eviction begins with ownership of habits, thoughts, and choices. When a person submits their thought life to God, builds consistent spiritual habits, and refuses to live in fear, the enemy loses his map. He loses leverage. He loses predictability. You were never meant to live bullied by fear. You were meant to live with authority. Scripture says you are seated with Christ, empowered by the same Spirit that raised Jesus from the dead. That means fear does not get the final word. The devil doesn't need to know your thoughts to control you unless you let fear shape your habits. Change the habits. Close the doors. Fear loses its power. And in the end, the message is simple. Run to Jesus. Surrender. Let him renew your mind. Because no matter where you came from, no matter what you believed yesterday, there is one name that breaks every chain. Jesus Christ.